The RainWings, known for their pacifism, lack of basic life skills, and love of fruit. The RainWings are certainly a very interesting tribe, and they have certainly changed throughout their 5,000-year history more than any other tribe, except maybe the Nightwings. And recently, they've started to undergo yet another change, this time for the better. For the first time in 2,000 years, RainWings could be entering a golden age under the leadership of Queen Glory, the most polarizing RainWing queen since Queen Jacaranda. Some praise her as a savior of two tribes, unlocking the capabilities of the RainWings and saving the Nightwings from almost certain extinction. Others see her as a tyrant, destroying the RainWing way, oppressing the Nightwings, and abusing her power of queen, a position some say she shouldn't even have in the first place. So what exactly is the full story? Is Glory bringing change, or simply undoing changes done by the queens of the past millennia? Can the tribe assert itself as a strong Pyrrhian power, or will it continue to remain the continent's laughing stock? To understand the mindset of the RainWing tribe, we must first examine its geography. The thick jungle environment creates an impregnable shield around the tribe, making it extremely difficult to invade. Visibility is low due to low levels of light and closely packed jungle foliage. The ground is muddy and difficult to walk through. The lush foliage is the perfect environment for guerrilla warfare, giving the RainWings an insane advantage, combined with their camouflage and venom. Air invasions are not much easier, as the rainforest canopy creates an impenetrable barrier that can protect the tribe from air attacks. The only real way for a foreign invader to gain ground is to burn down the rainforest, which might have actually been done by the Skywings during their several wars with the RainWings mentioned in the guidebook. In fact, the rainforest may have been much larger centuries ago, and what we're seeing now are remnants after territory was taken and scorched by either the Skywings or Mudwings. But that's a topic for another video. However, this geography does have some downsides. One major issue is that the tropical climate and nutrient-deficient soil found in rainforests makes it difficult for crops to grow. The RainWings are able to get food from the wild, but the lack of organized farming means little to no selective breeding to create favorable traits for the RainWings' diet. The rainforest also lacks certain natural resources, in contrast to the vast amount of food and wood. This has caused the kingdom to fall behind and wind up as the least developed kingdom in Pyrrhia. Another major downside is also one of its greatest strengths, the impenetrable foliage. The RainWings are generally known to be isolationists, and that we know. But even back in the days when they weren't, they were likely always a kingdom focused mainly on itself, since the foliage that protects them from the outside invasion also keeps them mostly confined within the rainforest. This could be one of the major factors that caused the RainWings to develop a rainforest-first attitude. This has taken on several forms, from showing off their military strength to gain respect and power during the Anaconda era, to being completely shut off and focused on pacifism in the Jacaranda era. It is also not implausible to assume the same factor could have separated various RainWing villages, further isolating each of them, although not to the same extent the Sandwings are separated by their geography. At some points in history, villages may be in more contact with each other than at other points, depending on the policy of the queen in charge and the policies of those in charge of each village. While this might not play a huge part in the way the RainWing kingdom works now, it could become more significant in the future depending on what approach Queen Glory takes to governing the kingdom. As of 5012, the Rainforest has two major political parties. The Rainforest Populist Party, made up of RainWings who want to put an end to the oligarchy and call for a return to the militaristic era, as it was prior to Queen Jacaranda's abolishment of the military, and the Dragon's Traditional RainWing Party, made up of RainWings in support of the oligarchy who advocate for pacifism and, contrary to name, do not actually preserve RainWing tradition, as it was this faction's first leader, Jacaranda, who dismantled many RainWing traditions. The RPP is led by Glory, and the DTRP currently has no leadership, as Magnificent is unpopular in both parties, and Grandeur switched her allegiance to Glory. To find out where the names of these factions came from, check out my video on Pyrrhian factions and flags, where I explain how these factions, while not explicitly mentioned by name in the books, very well exist in the sense that we see various factions within kingdoms and tribes with very distinct views and platforms. And also it's just cooler to have names for these factions instead of just referring to them as Glory's faction and the X-Queens. So anyways, the RPP's main platform is strengthening the kingdom and abolishing the rotating monarchy, or as I call it, the oligarchy. This seems like some pretty radical changes. However, the RPP may not be bringing new changes so much as undoing old changes. The social and political climate Glory has brought about is actually a return to form for the RainWings. From its earliest recorded history, the RainWing tribe was one of great strength and power. It was one of the most feared and respected tribes in Pyrrhia, considering the RainWings' natural abilities were superior to many others, and for centuries, RainWings would dominate combat. This era reached its golden age under Queen Anaconda, commonly regarded as one of, if not the best RainWing queen in history. Under Anaconda's rule, the RainWing military was ranked #1 in all aspects. The Rainforest Kingdom's defenses were top-notch, and even the thought of venom assassins kept the kingdom's adversaries from escalating conflicts. That is, until her granddaughter Jacaranda came to power and implemented radical policies that eroded the RainWing way, mainly the abolition of the Assassin Academy and the defunding of the military. This put the RainWings in a vulnerable position, as they had just lost major wars against the Skywings and Mudwings, who had annexed territories and asserted themselves as new military powers. The Jacarandan policies led to a slippery slope that created ultra-comfortable living and a sharp decrease in productivity, leading to complete and total reliance on the Queen for essentially everything. On top of that, there was no incentive for education, leading to the loss of reading and writing abilities. As if all that wasn't enough, the family structure broke down as well in favor of a more collectivist village family system, because when society abandons its foundations, nothing is set in stone, even the concept of parents. Now, let's take a look at how the RainWings have been governed. If it is true that several villages existing in the rainforest have limited contact, then this would imply a federalist system of government. Each village would have a mayor and some degree of autonomy, and they are all under the rule of the Queen. Simple enough. That is, until Queen Grandor came to power. She created a new system to allow dragons fit for the job to become queen, and every month there would be a peaceful transition of power. While the system may have been created as a last-ditch effort to fix the kingdom, it ultimately created an oligarchy of 6 dragons who held all the power and were even less efficient than the monarchy was before. Many praise Grandor as a wise queen since she endorsed glory and forfeited the royal challenge. However, many forget it was her who created the failed oligarchy in the first place, and throwing her support behind Glory allows her to escape the criticism she would have received from the RPP. Now that Glory is queen, she has upended the status quo in several ways. Most notably, she abolished the oligarchy, returning the tribe to a monarchy. She also appointed advisors and assistants in the form of the RPP's most notable figures, such as Mangrove, Kinkajou, Deathbringer, and even Grandor, who switched parties like I mentioned earlier. When you take one look at Glory and the way she operates, you know she's someone who values independence, and it is likely she will put an emphasis on village autonomy. But we also have seen her use executive power a lot. So is she an authoritarian or a libertarian? Well, she's a moderate. She insists even the Nightwing village have autonomy and operate nearly self-sufficiently, and that does not interfere with any of the ways she has used executive power, because she has done so in a way that does not force every village to bend to her will. She has used her power as queen to re-establish the military, use resources to build weapons and tools, and is likely planning to establish schools in the Rainforest Kingdom. This is why the claim Nightwings like Fierce Teeth make, that Glory is a tyrant oppressing the Nightwing Tribe, is false. The Nightwings have benefited from Glory's policies in both good and bad ways. I discussed this topic more in depth in another video, which you can check out in the description. Glory's stance on the Nightwings is actually a lot more nuanced than some might think. While it's true that she allowed them to settle in the rainforest, a crucial detail is often left out of this decision. Glory didn't want to let them in, and for good reason. A large population from a hostile kingdom isn't exactly the best thing to have in your nation. The only reason she actually let them in was due to Starflight convincing her to do so, and the pressure of the situation, which left her with no time to think. She did, however, make up for this by enacting some security measures. First off, the Nightwings were required to pledge themselves to her kingdom, and the Animus tunnels were secured and guarded at all times by Glory's new army. They were also put under surveillance and warned that if they stepped out of line or violated any laws, they would be kicked out of the kingdom. With this, Glory has minimalized the risk, but not completely. I talked about the Nightwing nationalists in my video covering the Nightwings, so watch that for additional context. In short, there is a faction of Nightwings against Glory. Another stance Glory is taking is that of punishing criminals. It's as straightforward as it sounds. The clearest example we see of this is Mastermind's sentence to a quicksand prison as punishment for its experiments on RainWings. Alright, now let's take a look at Glory's foreign policy. So far she seems to be taking a non-interventionalist stance. She has not gotten the rainforest involved in any war or conflict it didn't need to be in. However, she isn't an isolationist either, and always puts the RainWings first. If her tribe is threatened, she will respond. She has also established herself as a serious ruler, and has established ties with other kingdoms and opened up to foreign investments from other kingdoms to help establish the rainforest among the other Pyrrhian kingdoms and to boost exports. It is expected Glory will form an official alliance with the Sandwings and the Skywings in the near future. But wait, the Skywings? Aren't they the RainWings' enemies? Well, yes, they've had several wars in the past. However, Queen Ruby differs from the queens who came before her, and it seems both queens are willing to take the reasonable path of allying for peace instead of remaining enemies for the sake of preserving the geopolitical climate of the 3000s. There is, however, a relatively important issue when it comes to her foreign policy, and Glory's queenship as a whole. That is her attitude. Yes, I'm serious. Glory is known to be often extremely sarcastic, sassy, and even rude in some cases, which is not ideal when it comes to a queen and her rhetoric. While Glory is certainly smart and not as reckless as her fellow Dragonid of Destiny Tsunami, she still lashes out verbally, and as a new queen, this rhetoric could potentially damage her image. However, it appears that she has been improving her royal image over the months, and her popularity may imply that her policies are much more important than the way she presents herself. If Glory wishes to ensure her legacy lasts beyond her reign, she will have to ensure her successor will continue to carry out her policies and preserve the ideas she helped to reinstate. If Moonwatcher's vision accurately predicts the future, then Glory will eventually have a daughter named Firefly who will succeed her, whether by challenging her or waiting until she steps down or passes away. The last thing Glory wants is for her successor to reverse all of the reversals Glory herself made to the Rainforest policy. So, it is plausible that Glory may begin training Firefly from a young age on how to properly run the kingdom. I've talked a lot about this before, but there are some crucial details we must cover relating to Glory's relationship with the Nightwing Tribe. From the start, that relationship was a rivalry. Under Queen Magnificent, Nightwings were sneaking into the rainforest and kidnapping RainWings to progress their planned invasion, and Glory promised to put an end to it, which she did by launching a military operation on the Nightwing Island to free the RainWing prisoners and contest Nightwing influence on her tribe. Now, despite most Nightwings pledging support to Glory, only about half of them actually support her, while the other half is resentful and hopes to someday enact revenge. So what should Glory do in this situation? I think the most probable outcome will be a due process all Nightwings must go through in order to become citizens, and this could help Glory weed out the good from the bad, allowing peaceful innocents to remain where they are and taking action against hostile threats. Glory giving the Nightwing civilians opportunities of redemption and participation in her kingdom has also started to change the relationship into a more of a delicate partnership, and this is where it will likely remain for the short-term future. That is until the inevitable backlash I talked about in my Nightwing video. With time, it is expected that while a greater number of Nightwings will continue to support Glory, the tribe as a whole may begin to distance itself from the RPP as nationalist movements appear. The partnership will likely not last and was never meant to permanently last, which will cause a lot of issues for Glory down the line, which is why I see her decision to allow the Nightwings to stay in the rainforest to be her biggest mistake, and even she seems to realize it and is doing the best she can to make up for it. It is even possible that some Nightwing nationalists may turn to the DTRP, as they share a mutual enemy in Glory and the RPP. This divide could potentially heal, but it would take a very long time, because this is the consequence of the merger of two kingdoms with different values and ideas. The Nightwings will either have to adapt and assimilate into RainWing society, or move elsewhere, and we are already starting to see groups of Nightwings make their choice. The Rainforest Kingdom has historically operated differently from other kingdoms, likely bartering instead of using the standard Pyrrhian gold. However, if Glory wants other kingdoms to trade with hers, she would need to either switch the currency to gold or create a new currency that could be exchanged for gold, but not tied to it. So if gold's value goes down, the Rainforest currency would not be affected. Other than this, there likely will not be much else Glory will do to the economy, leaving it open and free, sparking innovation and advancements in technology, as is proven to historically be the case. Glory may incentivize market competition in certain industries by promoting entrepreneurship, creating a new generation of RainWing businesses. The weaving market is perhaps one of the most lucrative, and has already been mostly operating free of the Queen's interference, and this will likely continue under Glory. Now, let's talk about taxes. Will Glory raise taxes to pay for militarization in schools? Probably not. Let me explain. Historically, raising taxes disincentivizes work and therefore lowers productivity, and right now, the last thing RainWings need is to be less productive. So, then how will Glory pay for schools? She won't. There are several schools in other kingdoms, and the RainWings are already testing the waters by sending the students to Jade Mountain Academy. There is also potential for private schools to be set up within the rainforest, which tend to be higher quality compared to public schools. But what about the military? Well, the RainWing military is actually a lot smaller than most, and largely operates with camouflage and venom operations, and most weapons RainWings use could easily be homemade. Another thing Glory could potentially do to generate more revenue without raising taxes is imposing limited tariffs on certain goods and industries where there is room for domestic growth, such as wood, fruit, and other resources the rainforest can rely on itself for. This of course would have to be implemented some years down the line, as it is best to impose tariffs when you have the capabilities to have strong domestic markets, which the RainWings don't have at this current moment, which is why Glory is increasing trade to gain resources and is incentivizing productivity. But in the future, it wouldn't be surprising to see her impose tariffs on certain foreign goods in order to incentivize domestic markets. While it is true that doing so could have negative effects on the international market and could disincentivize foreign trade, Glory would likely limit tariffs to the aforementioned rainforest resources, keeping trade cheaper for goods the rainforest does not have access to, allowing them to receive an abundance of goods from their allies, ultimately boosting the rainforest economy. This economic boom and revival of the kingdom will likely take about a decade, and we are already seeing the effects today. So within the first year of her queenship, Glory has started to steer the rainforest back in the right direction by bringing back the original RainWing way and doing away with the terrible policies of Magnificent, Grandeur, and those who came before them. The Nightwings remain a thorn in her side, as some support her and are willing to do what it takes to be a law-abiding citizen, while others seem to only be there for malicious purposes, as we have already seen a failed assassination attempt on Glory's life by none other than Fierce Teeth. The Nightwings will likely drift away from the RPP in the coming years in favor of nationalist movements, but will eventually come home to Glory after the inevitable economic boom she will bring. Between 5012 and 5014, the RainWings militarize and learn the skills they had been deprived of for centuries. Once the rainforest is in a good place, Glory then makes an alliance with Thorn and Ruby, and assists them in their struggles by sending weapons to Thorn to help her defeat Vulture when she inevitably launches an offensive, and sending weapons to help Ruby quell the remnants of the pro-Scarlet Rebellion. Glory's choice to ally with the Skywings finally puts an end to the millennia-old rivalry between the two tribes, helping them both in the long run. By 5017, the RainWings have reclaimed their spot as the best military in Pyrrhia, with both RainWings and Nightwings enlisting. Whether the Nightwings actually remain loyal is unclear. Don't worry, I will be covering the Civil War scenario eventually, but for now, we're looking at the optimistic future. Nightwings loyal to Glory remain in the rainforest, while those in support of anti-Glory factions migrate to the remnants of the ancient Night Kingdom. The RainWings now stand on the brink of a new renaissance of culture, economics, and education, all thanks to Queen Glory, who took a stand against the worst queens in history and revived the rainforest.